Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Ordinary Forces, written by Despair.
That concludes the agenda, the chair of the Galactic Assembly announced. Is there any new business?
The DAC ambassador rose and addressed the assembly.
The DAC Empire protests in the strongest terms the dishonorable actions of the Human Republic. Ambassador Hamilton of the Human Republic. Any response?
The Human Republic had not deliberately tweaked the DAC's nose lately. It couldn't be about the refusal to extradite slaves. That was old news. The ambassador's staff frantically typed searches into their datapads, but he knew that they wouldn't have the answer in time. How to make utter confusion look like strength. It would please the Republic, he said with a calm dignity, to learn the nature of the DAC Empire's grievance.
You told this body,
the DAC ambassador began, slowly and with menace,
that the human renouncers were private individuals with no further tie to the Republic, and yet we find they are full of human special forces causing mischief, and the Human Republic does not wish to sign their name to.
That is not true. The renouncers are humans who have separated themselves from the Republic. No more, no less. It saddens us that they wish to do so, but we acknowledge their right. We have no further agenda in permitting this.
No further agenda. We have taken some of these humans as slaves, and their subsequent actions are not those of civilians.
You have taken humans as slaves. Ambassador Hamilton almost growled the question.
Human renouncers, the DAC ambassador replied smugly, who are outside the Republic's protection, are they not?
They are. So we promised, and so it shall be. We will make no further effort to free them than we would any other sentient being that you have enslaved. His gaze swept the council chamber. No one has missed the giant loophole at his promise, nor the hint that they might prioritize slaves of the DAC. But it was a vague threat, and it was in no one's interest for him to clarify it. The DAC didn't want to open that can of worms either. Instead, he returned to his original claim.
But these humans were special forces despite your promises.
If you will tell me their names and what they did, I will see what I can explain.
The first called herself Rebecca Stain. We acquired her in Tarsus B, along with several outcast Denbarians and nearly 5 tons of survey and mining equipment, so we sent her to a mining colony.
The human ambassador looked down at a tablet his aide had just passed him. Humanity didn't exactly have a database of its people, but it had an excellent search software. We have records of her. Bachelor's in geology. Started a doctorate, then abandoned it. Probably to do something more lucrative. No military training.
And was it her geology training that taught her to kill our overseer with a sledgehammer?
Well, to wield the hammer, yes. Killing, oh, that's just instinct.
To manage a hammer effectively on a high-gravity world, this was a 5-kilogram sledge on a 10 meters per second squared planet.
Geologists do field work, and that's hardly higher gravity than Earth. She was used to it, evolved for it, even.
The overseer was armed with an energy whip.
Well, that's your mistake right there. An energy whip is a torture implement, not a weapon. Horrible things, of course, but for sheer deadliness, a hammer has it beat. Plus, it showed her that she has little to lose by fighting. If you demonstrated intent to energy whip me, and then handed me a deadly weapon, I'd fight even if the odds were bad. That's common sense, isn't it? Judging by the reactions around the council chamber, the sense was not common. The ambassador ignored it.
The overseer, the DAC ambassador snarled, was a Randcore, twice her height, 10 times her mass, with skin like solid stone.
You gave her a hammer specifically designed for smashing solid stone. And a species that large probably isn't from a higher gravity world. Another 8 passed a tablet. 3 meters per second squared, their homeworld has. He could probably barely move. No wonder she defeated him.
And then, instead of escaping, she freed all of the other slaves. Is that an ordinary human thing to do?
I would like to think so. It's the ideal we all strive for. Some fall short, of course.
Then she killed the mine owner.
I trust you're grateful to her for improving your race's average intelligence by doing so. I see nothing here outside what could be expected of an ordinary geologist.
I could almost believe that, if this were all an isolated incident. Less than a week later, we captured Lawrence Sprinn on a book signing tour.
Ambassador Hamilton needed no pad for this one. Sprint really is an author. I've read some of his books myself. And we did not encourage him to renounce his citizenship. He did it to evade taxes. We were quite upset.
He was carrying a concealed weapon.
That's common enough amongst renouncers. They're outside of our police protection, after all, and apparently people keep trying to take them as slaves.
He sighted our capture squad at a distance of 40 meters. He shot them all before they closed to 20. It was 6-man squad.
The point of a ranged weapon is to use them at range.
At that range, against multiple moving targets, that level of shooting qualifies as top-ranked by our military standards.
Then I suggest you tighten your standards. It's not that unusual for a human recreational speed shooting.
Recreational speed shooting?
Everyone needs a hobby.
Yet another case. Bruce Ng, captured on his way back from the academic conference.
Ambassador Hamilton looked at the pad. Again, no military background. Seems to have been a mathematician. Published several papers about elliptic curves. Bruce had also contributed extensively to several open-source projects, but there was no summary, so Hamilton didn't mention it.
He was purchased by our Navy, put into general labor on a destroyer slave pit.
I take it you regretted this.
He subverted the main computer, dumped atmosphere everywhere except the slave pit, took the destroyer for his own, and began conducting raids on our military bases with it.
I would guess the destroyer's data security was built on elliptical curves.
That sounds vaguely familiar. I'm not really sure what it means.
It means you'd be wise not to slave mathematicians aboard it.
But he was captured, defeated. Why didn't he stay defeated?
Why should he?
Because when one has been defeated, one gives up.
The deck shouted. Several other delegates flinched away.
That is common sense.
Doesn't sound very sensible to me, Hamilton said, unperturbed. Losing one battle doesn't mean you can't win the next, as these cases demonstrate. Now, if you gave them something to hope for from cooperation, they might try that. But if you put somebody's back to a wall, you should expect a fight to the death. That sort of giving up you describe just isn't part of human nature.
If that's really so, the deck ambassador said slowly, then I propose every human be categorized as special forces soldiers for the purposes of interstellar law.
Such a resolution would be very inconvenient for human diplomacy and commerce, but Ambassador Hamilton liked the feeling behind it. He thought fast and spoke slowly. That would be unwise, he said. You see, humanity has special forces soldiers. They are to people that you've described as your special forces are to your civilians. And if you describe them as no more than human civilians, they might take offense. I really wouldn't care to see what they might do if they were offended. End of story. Story number 2. Higher, written by Cheng Lao. The gods were slain, the heroes beat, the age of gold had ended. A darkness overcame the land, and man was undefended. The hordes of evil swept the land. They pillaged, murdered, and reaped. They were the wolves, and man the sheep, while humankind was weak. But then one man who had enough said, "Let the works commence. If gods and knights won't bear our shield, we'll build our own defense." Thus man toiled with earth and rock. They would make their towers tall, surrounding every settlement with mighty city walls. But simple works of earth and rock could not stop the arcade. The Lord of Sin tore down the walls with endless hellfire raid. Yet man would stand up from the ash in spite of magic fire. Our city walls were not enough, then we'll just build them higher. Again man toiled at his works to build a fortress strong. Again the spell of hellfire would prove mankind was wrong. But mankind had no other strength, if not for force of will. The wall was not built high enough, we'll build it higher still. The wall was built up once again, its width matching its height, but in the face of darkness it was torn down overnight. Seeing loved ones die in vain, man had but one regret. Our walls were insufficient. We'll build them higher yet. The Dark Lord laughed, "Such easy prey. Your efforts are in vain. Walls can't stop the powers that seek pleasure in your pain." The evil armies marched once more upon the human lands. The Overlord threw balls of flames and lightning from his hands. But offense and offense failed without a penetration upon the wall built from the souls of countless generations. Mankind had earned reprise, and yet their labor had not ended. Man built some more and justified the wall must be extended. More people need more space to live, more towns to be protected, more mouths to feed, more land to claim, more walls to be erected. Extend they did the human walls, so long that man would boast that humankind's great fortress stretched the land from coast to coast. Yet even this was not enough. We'll make our bastion high, we'll build our walls and city, till our towers pierce the sky. And pierce the sky his towers did, and still man looked above. We'll build our place in the stars if we try hard enough. Man built his artificial moons and cast his net to heaven. The will of man could now engulf the world with human weapons. Once more mankind had set a task. Once more his goal was met. The Overlord then realized he was no more a threat. The time has come for me to give to mortal man my fate. I hope that my surrender has not come to you too late. But even to the Lord's resign, mankind did not retire. They simply turned back to their works and whispered even higher. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I just want to quickly thank the T5 channel members and patrons. Alithia, Barky, Trygan95, Beautycure, Meridian 117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholt, Jordan Bucksborn, Angry Marine, Albard and Gusta, Savage Patch Papa, and Arcadian.